Stack 130 cars on top of each other. Now imagine a single airplane lifting all of them off the ground at once and flying them across an ocean. That actually happened. The machines you're about to see don't just break records, they break your sense of what's possible. Planes that swallow tanks whole, open up like a knight's helmet, and ride on more wheels than a semi-truck. 10 of the biggest cargo planes ever built. Stick around for number 1. It's heartbreaking. Number 10, Boeing C-17 Globemaster III. Let's start with the plane that does the impossible job, getting heavy gear into places that have no business hosting a jet this size. The Boeing C-17 Globemaster III can haul a maximum payload of around 170,900 pounds, roughly 77.5 metric tons, which is enough to carry a 70-ton M1 Abrams main battle tank into a war zone, fully loaded. But here's what makes the C-17 genuinely absurd. Most planes this big need long, smooth, civilian-grade runways. The C-17 doesn't care. It can land on short, rough, unpaved airstrips less than 3,500 feet long, then reverse thrust and back itself up like a delivery truck. Try imagining a 4-engine jet the length of a swimming pool, performing a 3-point turn on a dirt strip in the desert. That's a normal Tuesday for this aircraft. It's flown by the United States Air Force and a long list of allied nations, and it's been the backbone of nearly every major humanitarian airlift and military deployment of the last 3 decades. Earthquakes, evacuations, disaster relief, you name it. With one in-flight refueling, its range becomes effectively global. The C-17 is the smallest plane on this list, and it can still carry the weight of a fully grown blue whale. That should tell you exactly where this list is heading. Keep that in mind, because everything from here only gets more ridiculous. Number 9, Antonov An-22. Now we go back in time to 1965, the height of the Cold War, when the Soviet Union rolled out something the world had never seen, the Antonov An-22 Ante. To this day, it remains the largest turboprop-powered aircraft ever built, not jet-powered, propeller-powered, and the propellers are the whole story. The An-22 is driven by 4 Kuznetsov NK-12 turboprop engines, each spinning 2 giant contra-rotating propellers. That's 8 massive blades clawing at the air per engine pair, with each prop measuring over 7 meters across. These are among the most powerful turboprop engines ever fitted to an aircraft, and the sound they make is a deep, bone-rattling roar that you feel in your chest before you ever see the plane. It first flew on February 27, 1965, and stunned Western observers when it appeared at the Paris Air Show that same year. It could haul about 80 tons of cargo and operate from rough, unpaved runways, letting the Soviets drop tanks and armored vehicles into remote, frozen corners of their empire. In 1967 alone, it set 14 payload-to-altitude world records, including lifting 100 tons of dead weight to nearly 7,850 meters, almost the height of Mount Everest. Only around 66 were ever built, and the type soldiered on for an astonishing 6 decades. Sadly, the very last operational An-22 crashed during a test flight in December 2025 in the Ivanovo region of Russia, closing the book on a true aviation legend. It was old, it was loud, and it was magnificent. Number 8, Airbus BelugaXL. Time for something that doesn't just look absurd, it was literally painted to look absurd. Meet the Airbus BelugaXL, the flying whale. Airbus actually held a public vote, and the winning design gave this aircraft cartoon eyes and a giant smile painted on its nose. It is, without exaggeration, the goofiest looking giant in the sky. But under that grin is serious engineering. The BelugaXL is based on the Airbus A330 widebody, then heavily modified with a colossal bulging upper deck, and that bubble gives it the largest cargo bay cross-section of any cargo aircraft currently flying anywhere in the world. It's about 63 meters long, and it exists for one very specific reason. Airbus builds airplane parts all over Europe, and somebody has to fly those parts to the final assembly lines. So the BelugaXL spends its life swallowing entire airplane components. It can carry 2 complete wings for the A350 widebody jet at once, something its smaller predecessor, the original Beluga, simply couldn't do. Its maximum payload is around 51 tons, and it first flew in July 2018 before entering full service. Think about that for a second. This is a plane whose entire job is to transport pieces of other planes. It's a giant flying box, designed to keep the world's largest aircraft manufacturer running. Goofy face, dead serious mission. Number 7. Boeing 747 Dreamlifter. If Airbus has its whale, Boeing has its own bloated monster. And it might be even stranger. This is the Boeing 747 Dreamlifter, officially the 747-400 large cargo freighter. Boeing took its iconic 747 jumbo jet, the queen of the skies, and gave it a fuselage so swollen it looks like the plane ate another plane. Here's the genius part. The entire tail section of the Dreamlifter swings open sideways, a giant hinge door, longer than any cargo door on any other plane in the world. That's how engineers load enormous, awkward sections of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner straight into the belly. And the belly is the real headline. The Dreamlifter has a cargo hold volume of roughly 65,000 cubic feet, about 1,840 cubic meters. That makes it one of the most voluminous cargo aircraft ever built by internal space. It can swallow huge, lightweight, oddly shaped parts that would never fit inside a normal freighter. Only 4 Dreamlifters were ever made, and like the BelugaXL, their entire purpose is moving aircraft parts, flying 787 fuselage barrels, wings, and tail sections between factories in Japan, Italy, and the United States to Boeing's assembly lines. Without these 4 bizarre, bulbous jumbo jets, the Dreamliner program would grind to a halt. It's a plane built to build other planes, and it looks completely ridiculous doing it. Number 6. Boeing 747-8F. Now we hit the heavyweight champion of everyday global trade, the plane that's quietly carrying the stuff in your life right now. The Boeing 747-8 Freighter is the largest commercial cargo plane currently in production, and it is a flat-out beast. This is the final, stretched evolution of the legendary 747. At over 76 meters long, about 250 feet, it's the longest 747 ever built, and one of the longest airliners in the world, period. Its maximum takeoff weight pushes close to 987,000 pounds, making it the heaviest commercial airplane Boeing has ever produced. It's powered by 4 modern, fuel-efficient GEnx engines borrowed from the 787 Dreamliner family, and it first flew in 2010. But the signature trick of the 747 freighter is the nose. The entire front of the aircraft, the cockpit and everything around it hinges upward, opening the plane like the visor of a knight's helmet. That lets cargo load straight in through the front, which means it can carry extra long items that simply wouldn't fit any other way. It hauls well over 130 tons of freight across oceans, day after day, for the world's biggest cargo airlines. When you order something from the other side of the planet and it shows up impossibly fast, there's a real chance a 747-8F was the muscle behind it. This isn't a one-off oddity. This is the workhorse of the modern world, and it's enormous. Number 5. Lockheed C-5M Super Galaxy. Back to the military, and back to genuinely jaw-dropping scale. The Lockheed C-5 Galaxy, in its modern C-5M Super Galaxy form, is the largest aircraft in the entire United States Air Force fleet, and it has been hauling the impossible since the very first one flew back in 1968. The numbers are staggering. The C-5M can carry a maximum payload of over 281,000 pounds, more than 127 metric tons. Its cargo compartment runs roughly 121 feet long, with a ceiling tall enough to stack vehicles. To load it, the C-5 opens at both ends. The nose lifts up and the tail opens too, so vehicles can drive straight in one side and straight out the other. No reversing required. What can it actually fit? 2 M1 Abrams tanks, or 6 attack helicopters, or a 74-ton mobile bridge, or armored vehicles, missiles, and entire field hospitals. During major conflicts and disaster relief operations, the C-5 has been the United States' strategic muscle, moving outsized equipment across oceans in hours instead of weeks by ship. The upgraded C-5M version, with new engines and modern avionics, entered service in 2009 and keeps this Cold War giant relevant well into the modern era. A total of 131 were built. When the U.S. military needs to move something that absolutely positively should not be able to fly, this is the plane that makes it fly anyway. Number 4. Hughes H-4 Hercules Spruce Goose. Now for a legend. A plane that flew exactly once, for less than a minute and then never flew again. Yet for more than 70 years, it held a record no other aircraft could touch. This is the Hughes H-4 Hercules, forever known by the nickname its critics gave it, the Spruce Goose. Born during World War II, it was the dream of billionaire Howard Hughes. The idea was a massive flying boat that could ferry hundreds of troops and tons of cargo across the Atlantic, safely above the German U-boats sinking Allied ships. But there was a catch. Aluminum was rationed for the war effort, so Hughes built almost the entire airplane out of wood, mostly birch, not spruce, despite the famous nickname. And the scale was unreal for the 1940s. Its wingspan stretched nearly 321 feet, about 98 meters, longer than a football field. It was powered by 8 enormous radial engines and designed to carry up to 750 fully equipped soldiers. The problem? By the time it was finished, World War II was over. Hughes was hauled before the US Senate, accused of wasting government millions on a plane that would supposedly never leave the water. So on November 2nd, 1947, with the whole world watching, Hughes climbed into the cockpit during a taxi test and lifted the giant clear off the surface of Long Beach Harbor, flying roughly a mile. He proved them all wrong, then locked it away forever. That single stubborn flight gave the Spruce Goose the longest wingspan of any aircraft in history, a record that would stand unbroken all the way until 2019. You can still see it today, fully intact, at a museum in Oregon. One flight, 1 minute, 70+ years of glory. Number 3, Antonov An-124 Ruslan. Now we enter Antonov territory for real. The Ukrainian design bureau that built the biggest planes the world has ever known. And the Antonov An-124 Ruslan is the one that actually works for a living. It is the largest mass-produced cargo aircraft on Earth. The An-124 was the Soviet answer to America's C-5 Galaxy, and it came out bigger. It can carry payloads up to roughly 150 tons, and it opens at both the nose and the tail, with built-in ramps so heavy equipment can roll straight through. The cargo hold is so massive, it even has its own onboard cranes to lift loads that ground crews can't. But the An-124's legend isn't built on specs, it's built on the insane things it carries. Over the years, these planes have hauled cargo that no other commercial freighter on the planet could take. 100+ ton railway locomotives, gigantic industrial generators, oil and gas equipment, yachts, satellites, even other aircraft fuselages. When something is too big, too heavy, or too weird to ship any other way, the world calls an An-124. Around 55 were built, and a fleet of them still flies commercial heavy lift missions today for operators around the globe. It first took to the skies in 1982 and entered service in the mid-1980s. Decades later, nothing in regular production has dethroned it. The An-124 is the proof that biggest and most useful can be the exact same airplane. And yet, believe it or not, it's still not the biggest Antonov ever made. Number 2, Scaled Composites Stratolaunch Roc. Get ready, because this one breaks your brain on sight. The Stratolaunch, nicknamed Roc after the giant mythical bird, has the longest wingspan of any aircraft that has ever flown in human history. We're talking 385 feet, tip to tip. That's about 117 meters, longer than a full American football field, including both end zones. And it doesn't even look like one airplane. The Roc has 2 complete fuselages joined by that single, impossibly long wing, like 2 jets fused together by a bridge. It rides on 28 wheels and is powered by 6 engines salvaged from a pair of Boeing 747s. The flight crew sits in the right-hand fuselage. The left one is unmanned. Its maximum takeoff weight is around 1.3 million pounds. Now, to be honest with you, the Roc isn't a traditional freighter that hauls boxes. It was built by Scaled Composites, funded by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen for one wild purpose: to be a flying launch pad. The idea is to carry rockets and hypersonic vehicles slung beneath that enormous central wing up to high altitude, then release them to fire off into the upper atmosphere or even into space, saving the fuel a ground launch would waste. It first flew on April 13, 2019, over the Mojave Desert in California, and it's designed to carry payloads up to around 500,000 pounds. It is the single widest airplane ever to leave the ground. Standing next to it, every other giant on this list suddenly looks normal-sized. But for sheer record-shattering, heaviest ever might, there is still one plane above it. The king. Number 1. Antonov An-225 Mriya, the greatest of them all, the heaviest aircraft ever built. The Antonov An-225 Mriya, and Mriya means dream in Ukrainian, which is exactly what this machine was. Only one was ever completed. It was born in the 1980s for a single, almost unbelievable mission: to carry the Soviet Buran space shuttle on its back, piggyback style, just like NASA's shuttle carrier. To do that, Antonov took their already massive An-124, stretched the fuselage, lengthened the wings, and bolted on 2 extra engines, giving the An-225-6 enormous turbofans. It remains the only 6-engine cargo plane in the world. The numbers don't even feel real. A maximum takeoff weight of 640 tons, a wingspan of 88.4 meters, about 290 feet, a landing gear with 32 wheels to spread that monstrous weight, and a payload capacity of 250 tons inside its cavernous hold, which was longer than the Wright brothers' entire first flight. In its career, it shattered around 240 world records. It lifted the heaviest single piece of air cargo ever recorded, a power generator weighing nearly 190 tons. It carried locomotives, wind turbine blades longer than the wing of a fighter jet, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, it became a global hero, flying enormous loads of medical supplies between continents. Wherever it landed, crowds gathered just to watch the dream fly. And then came the tragedy. On February 24, 2022, as Russia invaded Ukraine, the only completed An-225 sat in its hangar at Antonov Airport near Hostomel, undergoing maintenance. During the battle for that airfield, the aircraft was destroyed. The Dream, the single largest and heaviest plane humanity ever built, was gone in a morning. There is hope, though. A second An-225 airframe was partially built decades ago and still exists, and Ukraine has spoken of one day completing it to bring the Mriya back. Until that day, the An-225 stands as the absolute peak of what human engineering achieved in the sky, a one-of-a-kind giant that the world may never truly replace. Which of these monsters blew your mind the most? Drop your pick in the comments and tell me if you think the An-225 should ever be rebuilt. If watching these giants made the sky feel a little bigger today, hit that like button, subscribe for more aviation deep dives, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep looking up.